Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Huge Update 18. We are back, and this time we are joined by Tom Eastman, one of the creators of Battle Chef Brigade. Say hello.
Hello, I'm Tom.
And obviously I'm joined with Peter Morris, my good friend. Say hello.
Hi guys. There you go. Overruled you there, yeah. Hi guys.
Yep.
So I guess the first question we want to ask you, Tom, is for those people who don't know what Battle Chef Brigade is, how would you explain it?
Oh, this is a good one because I had so much practice with this at PAX East last week. So Battle Chef Brigade is basically fantasy Iron Chef. So you got orcs and elves and human chefs. They run into the arena, hunt monsters for the ingredients, and then bring those ingredients back to the kitchen to make dishes for the judges.
That's awesome. I saw actually a video of you playing it at PAX, and it did look fantastic. What was the main inspiration behind the game's concept? Because it's quite an interesting one.
It developed over the course of a few weeks, but basically we formed our company. We left Disney, and we made 2 mobile games real fast. Then we spent 2 months trying to brainstorm a larger game idea, and we came up with horrible ideas that weren't any good. And one day, after brainstorming all morning, we came in for lunch, sat down in front of the TV, and turned on the Food Network. And we were like, wow, there are no good cooking games that feel anything like this. You know, like a show like Chopped or MasterChef or Iron Chef, the like frantic running back and forth to the pantry, or the improvisation and creativity you see in the chefs. None of those things are captured very well by games. It's usually just different parts of the cooking experience. Like Cook Serve Delicious is really frantic, but it's a different input system than we've got. And then like something like Cooking Mama, it sort of tells you what to do and how to do it, and you're more following directions. Like even following a recipe is different than what we wanted to capture, like the sort of craziness that you see on these shows where they either give you a set of ingredients to deal with or they give you a theme ingredient, that sort of thing. And then from there, like at that point, it was just like, let's make a action-based cooking game somehow. And then we started integrating the fantasy elements to move it away from like real in something awesome with dragon. And I've freed us up a bit, like the fantasy us up to make the cooking system more abstract and a little more understandable for an action game, because cooking is like chemistry. We tried to make that fun, but it was a little hard. And we can get into that. But then there's also like fantasy and cooking have a lot of really cool overlap. Like chef uniforms already look fairly militaristic, you know. But then there's cool stuff like fire swords in, you know, high fantasy can turn into sort of like knives that sear while you chop in our game. And we just like loved all of those sorts of pairings between fantasy and cooking, and just felt like this totally new whole like area to explore. And cooking games should be more popular. There should be a lot of cooking games because a lot of the cooking shows are awesome, but they just aren't. So we thought, hey, this is a good opportunity.
Yeah, so I have never heard of a game that's just like what you've created. You know, like you mentioned, like Cooking Mama and stuff like that, but never this kind of mash of almost 2 different game genres, like this sort of Monster Hunter and almost Bejeweled, isn't it? If that's right.
Yeah, totally.
And how has it been trying to balance the gameplay so that both sides of the game feel connected?
It's been really hard. So I think on the one hand, it's nice that they're kind of separate, because sometimes if we're bogged down with combat, we can focus on the cooking and add a whole bunch of new mechanics, like change how it works, add some new magical containers, and feel really good about that. And then once we've given it enough time, come back to the combat and be like, oh, I now have a different perspective on it and can start fixing things that I was missing before. So sometimes it's good that they're separate, but that also resulted in us sort of over-designing each of them a lot. We'd be like, the cooking has to be fun by itself, the hunting has to be fun by itself, and what we've learned at a lot of conventions is that people don't need that much complexity. And it's perfectly fine to have like a simple but really strong base, and then just add on a few more things on top instead of, you know, many mechanics.
And over complicating it, yeah.
Exactly.
how does the combat play out in the hunting sections then? And also, do you have to gather like vegetation, like mushrooms and herbs for your dishes as well?
So the combat is similar to a whole bunch of games. Some of our core references, though, are Guardian Heroes, which is like a side-scroller brawler back in the Sega Genesis era, I think. It's Eric's
Going
favorite
back.
game. He's our artist. Yes, that's pretty far back there. And then Super Smash Brothers is another. We're not going all the way towards like every button input has like 5 different ways to input it, depending on if you're like tapping it or holding it and all that. But some of that directionality and simplicity, like they're just 2 buttons instead of like 20 buttons or something. So those are the big making a hunting game and not like a murder everything on the screen game.
Yeah, make it more
Which is-
PC. Yeah.
Yeah. And that the cooking sort of supplies that for us, where you're going for certain ingredients or certain tastes that you want to add to your dish. So then you're going after certain monsters. And then, oh gosh, you had a second part of the question. I totally forgot it.
Yes. Like, do you have to like gather like vegetation as well and herbs?
Oh
like,
yeah, yeah. So that's a funny question, because we had that in there up until about like a year ago or so,
Yeah.
and then we just haven't put them back yet because they were all like, we had a whole bunch of like bushes and simple things that you sort of would just like go and like kick the bush and stuff would pop out. So we want to get that back in, but we haven't gotten around to drawing like improved art. A lot of the stuff was like still placeholder that we just grabbed off Google Images, so we haven't had it in the game for a bit.
Nice, nice. It's kind of to put it in later on after the artwork's done. Then.
Yeah, thankfully, like adding some plants or even things that you have to interact with a little bit, they're so much easier than the monsters, because the monsters each have like a ton of animations and our whole art style is all hand drawn. So adding a single more monster is super time and painstaking. But thankfully, we can just add in a whole bunch of fruits and vegetables later on.
Oh, the game art looks generally amazing. I'm guessing your team's a fan of anime. What animes in particular have helped influence the style of Battle Chef Brigade?
That is a great question, and I'm always at a loss. I'm a programmer, and Eric's our art director, and I don't watch a lot of anime.
I knew someone on the team probably watched them.
There's a list somewhere on Google Drive, but I think some of his influences include Korra from the Avatar series. There's a sort of, so we used to work at Disney making video games, and so Eric has some Western influence to go with some of his main style is sort of a blend of a whole bunch of styles. But this game sort of lent itself. It was an opportunity to go more anime because of the Iron Chef relationship, and just because Eric likes mixing up the art style for each game. So this one made a lot of sense to go anime style with it.
Definitely has a like kind of soft anime look. Yeah, definitely I can see the influences from Korra and almost like Studio Ghibli-esque style at times as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, I was also wondering, when it comes to like the cooking part of the gameplay, what sort of variables have you kind of thrown at the player to make it feel more unique?
Yeah, so that's a great question, because when I was talking about over design earlier, the cooking is an area to take out all those mechanics. There are a ton of other things. At the base level, you get different containers to cook in. The 3 like basic ones are the pot. The pot's the only one in the demo, and then the pan and the oven. And each of them has a different way of manipulating the puzzle. So the pot rotates 4 tastes. The pan sort of like scrolls a row or a column, and then the oven kind of flips a 2x2 square of tastes. And that alone, interestingly enough, is enough to kind of surprise people when they're playing, because you get good at matching 3 in a pot, and then it's totally different to do it in a pan or an oven. But where that gets really fun is with all the other tastes that are also not in the demo, like bone and poison and mold and fragile tastes and sauce. So like bone is a good example because when you're placing your ingredients in your dish, it's sort of like Tetris, and so you're sort of guiding where things are going to end up. And with bone, you can't stir it, so you need to drop it in there. You need to Tetris it perfectly, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And so bone is something there where it can be good in your dish because if you match it, you'll get bonuses, but you don't want to serve it to the judges. And so you need to make sure you get it out before like the time runs out. And so something like bone, if you can't stir it in a default dish, you either need to drop it in right, or you need to use a container. Like you can use like the high heat oven that lets you stir the bone or flip the bone. Or you can use magic spells that can either remove it, and you can have containers that also can just remove bone magically, or use your own kitchen spells to get it out. And so like that's just like one example of how everything can go crazy depending on what other things are in your dish. So if you go out and hunt something that has a lot of bone, it could be really good, or it could be really bad if you don't have the right equipment or spells to deal with it.
I see.
Another fun one is sauce, and that lets you. So the judges have preferences of what taste they like, or they'll request certain things for a given round. So you can make a really high quality, say, salty dish. If they, for some reason, just wanted a really salty dish, maybe they're a fish person or something. So you could make, let's say that was good because, or that was bad because all you could get were green tastes, which I forget what the analog is. Maybe that's sour. So if you made a really sour dish, they would really hate it because it wasn't salty. But if you get a really salty sauce, you can change the color of gems, the taste gems. So you could build up a green dish and then convert it into a blue dish at the end.
I see. It's quite a lot of kind of extra mechanics layering on top of each other to kind of keep the player constantly manically running around like you wanted to kind of get from the Iron Chef influences.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, like you mentioned earlier, of course, like magic spells and like flame swords. Is there like an element of RPG mechanics put in place then for this? And does the player sort of rank up as they go through the game?
Absolutely. So at the base level, we weren't expecting to make an RPG, but it's at least an RPG light. So in the town, there's sort of the larger story of the game involves this Battle Chef Brigade tournament where like chefs can qualify and want to become a Battle Chef Brigade member. And that involves challenging other chefs in these sort of duels, Iron Chef style duels, and then eventually facing off against the Battle Chef Brigade veterans to get in. And so it all centers on this one town. And in this town, there are other jobs that are just sort of related to cooking. And so the three we have right now is there's this, we've been calling them pantry puzzles, but it's sort of like a chef workshop run by this kind of mad scientist. And he gives you actual designed puzzles to do that where you don't have to hunt, and he's given you the ingredients or already started a dish, and he gives you a goal. And so those we get to teach some of these more complex cooking mechanics, as well as challenge the player to like really show their stuff. And then there's also the restaurant, which is closer to like short order cooking, where a customer says they just want this certain thing, but they don't really care how good it is. So you're trying to satisfy them, as many of them as possible, as quickly as possible. So that also doesn't have hunting. It's got like a self-stocking pantry, and you're just trying to throw food out to the customers. And then the last one is the Hunters Guild, and there you do challenges that explore the ecosystems, the biomes, and just hunting challenges in general. So a good example of one of those is one of the early ones we teach how to get eggs. And to get eggs in the forest, you need to leave ingredients from other animals on the ground. And then these little birds fly over and steal your ingredients, which at first is really annoying. But if you let them steal like the less delicious ingredients that you don't want, then they'll fly away with them, eat them, and lay an egg. And so then you can get that egg, or you could let it hatch to get more birds. And so you have some control over your environment in that way. That's the sort of thing that you get in the Hunter's Guild. Like we could teach some of those things and reinforce like more complex mechanics.
It sounds incredible.
So anyway, that those three jobs are how you get money, and then you can buy buy new ability upgrades as well as new magical containers from the shopkeeper, who's a two-headed ogre, Louie and Louie.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, it sounds absolutely incredible. Just a side note, I can almost imagine this looking perfect on like a 3DS or something. Do you know what I mean? Like what you're
Yes.
explaining. I don't know. In my head, I'm like, I would totally like play hundreds of hours on my 3DS because it kind of reminds me a little bit of like the Monster Hunter mechanics of the hunting, and then of course you've got the cooking bits, and you of course teaching the player the mechanics through these individual games before they come up to the Battle Chef Brigade characters.
Yeah. Handhelds would be really awesome. For now, we're focused on like Steam and a console or two to be announced, but yeah, we would love to just keep exploring this world and expanding on it and bringing it to every platform possible.
Definitely. And how do the judges choose what kind of dishes they want? Is it randomized or is it like a structure?
So this is something that we've been playing around with. So we haven't really decided exactly how it's going to be. At the baseline, it might just be like they want certain, or they love certain tastes and hate certain other tastes. So give them something they hate, they'll like vote or something like that. But if you give them something they love, they'll give you some bonus points. So the player has a good idea of what the score of their dish is as they serve it. But then the preferences of the judges, if you have or haven't met them, can change your score. So you're not sure if you really beat the opponent or not until the judges have had their say.
That's cool. So does each judge have their own like preferences then?
Yeah, so the way we have it set up right now is that in the demo there's one judge, but we build up to three judges, just like Iron Chef. So you have some idea of what some of them like, but maybe not the third judge who might be new each round. And so yeah, you're serving each of them one dish.
That's awesome. And with the opponents you're against, is that like almost that do they come up to you? Is it quest based for them? Or like Pokemon, do you run into them in the wild and they challenge you? How does that work?
Yeah, so right now you get to choose who you want to challenge in the town. And so in the town you can do your jobs and then buy some stuff, and then you sort of end the day or the cycle by challenging someone into a match. And like you get to choose from a whole bunch. And the reason you might choose one or another is because they have their own spells that might affect your kitchen, as well as they give you a different gift when you beat them, sort of like Mega Man bosses. So if you're struggling to beat one, you might want to face off against another one that's easier for your character to beat, and then get some item that helps you against another chef.
That's so cool. Yeah, I love the idea of having you're struggling, beat this guy, then you have an advantage. That's, I think, a really interesting and great mechanic to have in there. I can totally see that working. What was I going to say? Yeah, that's it. What has been the largest hurdle so far in your development? Because you've had a huge project by the sound of it and a lot to take on. But what has been the real bit to get over?
The cooking itself. So we kind of selected it, like being like, this will be our indie challenge. Like we'll make a medium-sized game out of that.
Yeah.
And we really spent about a year and a half trying every cooking mechanic we could think of, trying to make something new and weird and action-oriented. And so like I was saying earlier about like cooking is chemistry, some of our early ones were like really specific, where the judges would say, I want a dish with this percentage salty, this percentage savory, this percentage sour, and for each taste. And then they'd go through textures and they'd be like, I want it like 30% crispy and 70% mushy, and like each, it was horrible. And so you'd be selecting ingredients to try to beat that. And so like if you were a little low on like mushy, you would then like boil a potato, except it would be some weird fantasy potato, where boiling it would make it more mushy, and then you'd add that to your dish to like change the numbers a bit. So I think someone could make a fun game out of that, but it was not an action game.
No, I guess also it doesn't allow for the kind of experimentation you mentioned at the start.
Yeah.
So just can each player almost create a sort of different dish with their own little, passage to it, their own little spark?
Yeah, yeah. And so that was the sort of goal of all this, to make it feel like you had some influence, like you're choosing the ingredients. You are not just following a recipe, and you're trying to make the best possible version of whatever those ingredients are. So right now the judges, or each round, there's a required ingredient, but then beyond that they don't really, it's just the judge preferences, and they don't say like make me beef Wellington or something. They're just like, make me something that tastes like this and uses this ingredient.
That's cool. Do you have like you mentioned like magical and strange items? Do the dishes you create have strange names as well? Like
Naming is something that, yeah, naming things is not something we're good at, and that'll probably happen like right at the end. We still call like our the bird that steals your ingredients is called the steel bird right now, and the like plant thing that can fly and has insect wings is called the plant bug right now. So we're still working on naming and everything.
Would you ever let the player name their dishes? Do you know what I mean? So they create it.
Yes, that is something that we really want to do. That we've been trying to figure out how to like which things should be named and which things will be funny, because it's the best when you get to name something and then it's used in another sentence. But right now it's just like this is the dish you made. It's not, you wouldn't be like, oh look, I named that thing that looks like that.
I made a sausage doppelganger or something.
Yeah, so it's still figuring out where to do that, but it's definitely on the radar.
That's awesome. And you've just come back from PAX, haven't you? How was that experience?
Extremely exhausting, but it went really well. This is our best one. There were a lot of really fun interviews and streamers who came by, and then we did a Kickstarter about 1.5 years ago, and so a whole bunch of backers were able to come by, and it's really wonderful when they say, "Oh, it's even better than I expected." And I'm like, I don't know, what were you expecting? But so that was really good, and this is our first time we sold merchandise, which included T-shirts, posters, and aprons, and we were wearing our aprons as well, and that was really fun.
Yeah, I need to get myself one of those aprons because it does look awesome. Where can I get an apron?
So unfortunately, we sold out of the ones we had available online. So we're probably gonna have some at PAX Prime, but we need to do a new run of them and then put it online somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. I'm an avid chef. I love doing all the cooking in my household. That's why I'm so interested by the sort of cooking mechanics and stuff you've got in place here.
Yeah, excellent. That reminds me that we had a corner booth, and if people were coming up through the aisles from one direction, they would see all the screens showing the game. But if they came from the other direction, they would just see the aprons and the T-shirts and the posters. And we had quite a few people who would come up and just buy an apron and then look at the game. And we're like, I guess they just wanted to shop for an apron today.
Yep. They go to PAX to buy aprons.
Yeah. I mean, we're the only booth you could buy aprons, so I guess it could happen.
That is true. They're not the most common item to find, Yeah. Of course, you said you did your Kickstarter. How was that experience, like doing a Kickstarter project?
It was exhausting. It was about 2 months of work for me doing research and trying to figure out the reward tiers and what the page to say and making all the little images for the page. And then it was about a month for Eric to do the trailer, which almost killed him too, because I don't know if you've seen the video, but it starts with sort of a really anime style Iron Chef intro.
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
hand animated as well, and that was pretty brutal. He was putting in some real late nights, or nights that didn't end for a few days.
He just didn't sleep.
Exactly. So that was really stressful. The actual campaign was also really stressful. But like, because we'd done a lot of research, it actually went as expected. But when you're in the thick of it, it's just really scary to like the plateau in the middle when things aren't going as fast, or you're not sure why certain sites haven't covered you yet. And, but it all went really well. We originally asked for, I believe it was $37,000, and we got $100,000. So that was extremely important to being able to like finish with this art style.
Yeah, definitely. Because I imagine it's very time consuming. It all being hand done, and like, do you know how many frames are on each sort of animation that he's done? Because it looks very smooth.
Too many. We've actually cut it down. Mina's original running animation was way too many frames. It was something like 20 frames, but I think she's down to 8 now, something like that. We've been really trying to cut down, and the key to then making it look smooth is there are lots of cool tricks you can do with effects. So, and we've been looking at all sorts of games to see how they manage to do that because you can get a really smooth look, even like if someone's sword is moving really fast, even if there's just one frame of the sword out there, if the effect has one or two sort of like follow-ups or follow-throughs, you can give it a really smooth feel without, drawing a character a million times.
Good way to kind of like, I guess, cut down on the file size as well, isn't it? And less work for him to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
With the Kickstarter project, you mentioned, of course, in the centre, it was quite hard to push it forward. What sort of what's the right word? What kind of advice would you give other people doing Kickstarter projects to kind of help make their campaigns more successful?
I think the biggest thing for us was finding similar projects on Kickstarter, and like for our game, there wasn't like some other cooking game we could look into, so we looked at a lot of other games that are a similar scope, I guess, and similar art quality, even though it might not be the same art style. And so we did a lot of analyzing how their pages were laid out, like what was the top image, how long was the video. The videos in particular, like there's a lot of conflicting advice about whether or not the developers should be in the video saying, give me money, or like, I'm trustworthy. And so we decided not to do that, and we just tried to let the game speak for itself and just show gameplay footage with that really cool intro and just get people excited. And it was fairly short. I think it was a minute. And we wanted people to be excited after seeing it and then like go straight to the rewards. And we didn't do we just did the pre-order was the first one for $15. And then, so we didn't do the like, thank you for $1 sort of thing. Yeah. We wanted to sort of anchor the price at $15, and then they could pay like 10 more for some like in-game rewards, and then it just built up from there. I think the next one was like early access to the beta, which will hopefully be in a few months, and then up from there. Then we got to the physical rewards that actually cost a lot of money and hassle to fulfill. I'm not sure. Like the aprons are really cool, and the posters and T-shirts are really great, but that was a lot of time and effort to make sure that those got to everyone.
I can imagine, actually. And I guess it's a good idea, isn't it? By putting it at 15, everyone that's invested are all kind of already invested. Like, I guess if you put $1 in or £1, it's more of a, that looks kind of cool, but if you're paying £15, you want to see the project through.
Yeah, we've had really, really supportive backers, and they've been really invested in understanding. So that's been really wonderful. Like knowing that everyone who like gets the emails, I just sent one out today actually. Everyone who gets emails like cares about the game and is really excited to like see the images and the progress and how we did at PAX, and that's been really wonderful.
That's awesome. And how have the kind of public, how have they influenced the game so far? Like, have they given you suggestions, or have you kind of allowed any of them to like play via a closed beta or anything like that?
We're planning a beta for probably this summer, and that will be a big help, and we'll get a lot of feedback then. Some of the reward tiers, there was actually one for design your own monster. And so we asked people like, what are some like reference animals that you can think of, like what or just what's some like weird fantasy monster you've had in your mind, and so we've designed the gameplay already for how those things might work, but now we're going to concept the actual monsters, and that'll be fun to go back and forth with them. Similarly, they got to decide like what are some ingredients their monster might drop, and so we've had some input in that way, and that's been really fun. And during the campaign itself, there were a whole bunch of stretch goals, and it was clear like which ones people cared about, and so that helped us focus a bit.
And what's kind of like the strangest thing then a monster can drop?
Oh, that's a good one. Let's see, we got dragon hearts, but that's sort of expected. Horns. We had some that we kind of took out because they were too weird. We have this sort of like board giant thing. And at one point you could cook its tail, which like it wasn't like too weird. It was just sort of this like coil of tail. But
Yeah.
when you would cook it, it would end up looking like this sort of like meaty rope thing, and it was really disgusting. So we took that out.
Yeah, like that's not actually pleasing on the eyes. Let's remove that.
Yeah, no one wants to eat that. Yeah.
And so, like, when is the game due to be sort of released? You've got the beta, of course, in summer. What's your kind of
Yeah.
due date?
So it will depend on how that beta goes. But either it's probably early 2017 at this point because there is so much more art and story to put in the game.
And I guess when they finish it, I guess the story is they become the Iron Chef. Is that right? The kind of the grand ruler, almost like the Pokemon Master. But
Not yet. We'll save that for the sequel. They just get into the Battle Chef Brigade in this. There's some twists and turns that are a little bit outside the tournament. We also have multiple playable chefs. I guess that's a big thing that we sort of promised in the Kickstarter, which may not have been a brilliant idea. I think the game could have been very successful with one main character. But we want to have multiple characters, each with their own story that sort of overlap a bit and build up to something larger. So that alone is a big thing that is taking a lot of time because each character has their own combat style and cooking style and cuisine. But I think it'll pay off because it's really cool to like fight against the same monsters or new monsters as different characters, each with their own crazy combat styles.
Oh, definitely. Any idea of maybe adding any sort of multiplayer, like player versus player cook-offs?
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that, like, from the beginning, we really wanted to do. It's not going to be in for launch because it's such a huge undertaking.
Of course,
but
yeah.
it's something that we really, really want to do.
Nice. And how are you going about marketing the game itself? Of course, you went to PAX, but what else are you kind of using to get the game out there?
That's a great question. We don't have the answer to that yet. We've been really active on Twitter, but I mean that's not a real solution yet. Yeah, we've been talking to other indie developers about how they manage their marketing, and there's a lot of answers from publishers such as dedicated marketing teams or all sorts of partnerships. So that's something that we've been trying to figure out. And then for indies, there are a lot of opportunities with Steam or the consoles themselves, like Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo have all been cool to us. So hopefully they can give us the sort of like marketing support that we'd love.
Definitely. And you mentioned, of course, publishers. Would you be looking to self-publish, or are you kind of trying to find a publisher to help with that side of things?
We've been investigating publishers. We're still leaning towards self-publishing though, because it's really publishers are sort of transitioning out still into digital and away from like give developers, or the publisher covers the cost of like printing CDs, and we don't really need that anymore.
No,
and
yeah.
very few people do, but they still want a pretty big cut. So we're trying to figure out, you know, what's really worth it. What could we do for flat rates from like a marketing firm? So yeah, it's something that we've been struggling with or for really like multiple years now.
I think there's a lot of things that, a lot of areas marketing that indies are kind of trying to get to grips with. As you said, it's changing quite a bit now from the kind of physical to digital. And as you mentioned, publishers, I think, are still trying to figure out what they can offer to make it worth their percentage.
Absolutely, yeah. So we've just been sort of making spreadsheets and asking them questions, but we haven't heard anything that makes us convinced that publishers make sense, you know. So self-publishing, it seems like the way to go, but it's something that we haven't really decided on yet because it matters so much. I mean, if we don't market the game well, then no one will hear about it, and it doesn't matter how good it is. So that's something we're always afraid of.
Yes, it's such a big part of the game design process now, isn't it? Is how do you get it noticed in such a saturated market?
Yeah, and hopefully the game stands out a bit because there aren't very many cooking games. But
totally, yeah. It looks awesome.
Yeah, but like not everyone is looking for cooking games.
It's weird. It's not just cooking though. It's like I would want to play it from the cooking side and the Monster Hunter side of things.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, so hopefully those things pair well together and bring in more people. You know.
And what else are you looking forward to in 2016? So it's like any particular games, apart from your own, of course, that you're working on, that you kind of think look interesting, or any individuals on Twitter that you think people should kind of take in, look at sort of thing and listen to?
Oh, I mean, everyone knows about it already, but I'm really excited to see what No Man's Sky really has inside.
Under the hood.
Yeah, because I think that's a wonderful concept. Oh man, my like gaming hours have been reduced so much from working on this game because it takes up all the hours that I don't even know what I'm looking forward to anymore. Some of our friends who worked at the same company as us here in Chicago, they're making Raise the Dead, this ragtag studio, and they showed at E3 like 2-3 years ago in the Sony booth. And I'm really excited for that. I just got to play a build not too long ago that was really fun. They're making a really big, it's sort of a zombie narrative-driven game where you're the zombie and you're controlling other zombies.
That's cool.
Really looking forward to that one. And it's coming along really well. There are a whole bunch of Chicago indie devs who might release this year, but probably not, given how indie game development goes.
It always takes a bit longer than you think, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I feel I'm following so many people on Twitter with cool stuff, but I can't even remember what they are. Yeah, so I just check them out when they launch, basically. I was super happy. Into the Gungeon that just came out, but I'm super excited for them because they talked to me back when we first started Trinket back in 2013. We were at PAX East, and I was like, "Yeah, going indie is great," and it's really cool to see them release a really really good game now.
Nice. Oh, and where can our listeners find you then?
Twitter is the best. I'm Trinket Tom on Twitter, but you can also just go by Battle Chef Brigade. BattlechefBrigade.com. Or our Twitter handle is for the game is Battle Chef Game. That's what was throwing me off. Or Trinket Studios. All those are on Twitter, or just trinketstudios.com. Or even just come by the Kickstarter or sign up on the mailing list on our website, and you can get updates as often as you want. On Twitter, you can get them every day, or the mailing list very infrequently, or on Kickstarter every month.
That's fantastic. Cheers. Thanks so much, Tom, for talking to us today.
Oh, thank you both so much.
It's been really insightful. I love the concept, honestly do. I can't wait to give it a go, and hopefully summertime, yes, for the beta.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Cool beans, Al. Do you want to do your awkward outro as always?
Yeah, thank you very much, Tom, for coming along, for chatting to us, to explain everything about Battle Chef Brigade. I was kind of interested. It was nice to hear that you've got multiple characters in it, because I know you've got like multiple character animations going on. I was kind of interested to because you were scouting for more artists, so I was like kind of wondered how that was going. If you don't mind talking about that.
Yeah, that's been really fun. This is our first time like putting out a larger call for artists, because we were Eric and I were going through the remaining art list and then estimated the number of hours, and we're like, oh wow, this is not going to get done without a whole bunch more people. And so we might actually need 2 more artists. And we got over 100 applicants, and we did a first art test, and then we did a second art test. And the next phase will be doing Skype calls with a few people to make sure that they'd fit with the team well enough. And our hope is that we can sort of give them a lot of creative control, as well as like agency over just making a ton of like dialogue poses for the story or monster concepts and animation. So that's been a really fun process. To see other people's take on our characters especially has been really cool.
Yeah. Awesome.
Nice.
So yeah, we've been a huge update. We've been talking to Tom Eastman from
Battle Chef Brigade.
From Battle Chef Brigade. Sorry, it's really late over here. It's coming up to 11 o'clock.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, don't worry. Don't worry.
Get to bed.
I will, trust me.
Because trust me, this has been a game that's been on my radar for a while actually, and I've been wanting to talk to you guys for You say that you don't have much of an impact, but I think you just as soon as you get that beta out, I think you're gonna have an absolute avalanche of fans swarming around this game. I think
that's good to hear.
Yeah, I think as soon as you get into a beta, or when you start having the community actually playing it, I feel this game is just gonna go sky's the limit. Like it's got such good the art style to it. It's got such good like appeal, and the actual game itself sounds really engaging. Like I feel like a good community can build around this very quickly. I definitely see good things in this game, so I was very fascinated to hear more like your story about it. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Al.
Yep, we've been Huge Update, me and Pete. So thank you, and we're gonna say goodbye. So everybody say goodbye now.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye bye.